Good morning, Pokemon players. Welcome back to the 2015 Northwest Regional Championships here in Seattle, Washington. My name is Dweeha, and joining me on the mic right now is going to be the one, the only Len Duell. How's it going, Len?
Pretty good.
So we are getting ready to go to the top 16 here, and we got some exciting matchups for you guys right now. The matchup that we're actually bringing to you guys is going to be the 1 seed Crow Harrison S versus the 16th seed TFC Kimo, and off-screen in-team preview, TFC is going to be going ahead and running Thunderous Incarnate, Terrakion, Mawile, Heatran, Suicune, and Venusaur. Harrison on the other side, as you can see, will be running Thunderous Incarnate, Sylveon, Cresselia, Heatran, Rhyperior, and Salamence. So we actually saw both players on stream yesterday,
yeah.
So we know exactly what to expect from these two teams. Len, why don't you give a rundown about the teams?
Yeah, so yesterday we saw Crow use his... he led Salamence and Cresselia, switched out of an Icy Wind and triggered a Weakness Policy Rhyperior, and then really using that and his Calm Mind Sylveon won the game. On Kimo's side, he had Trick Room used against him yesterday, and... Can you go back to it?
Yeah.
His team is more built around his Venusaur, with Mawile is kind of an off-speed. He uses the what's likely Tailwind Suicune. We didn't see that yesterday, as he didn't have any reason to use it against Trick Room, but he did use the Suicune to really slow down the Slowking and Gastrodon assault from Roshan.
That's right. Both players right now are getting underway to battle. For those of you guys who are interested in the other bracket, or the other matches in the bracket, we have Max versus Travis as the 8th and 9th seed. Which Max was it? Oh, Max Douglas, Star Metroid. Travis Knickerbocker. We have Luis versus Riley Factura, also known as Ganger Boy. Not exactly sure if Luis has a username that he likes to go by.
Let's talk about these
online.
lead matchups.
All right, yeah.
So Suicune and Rhyperior, or Suicune and Thunderous versus Rhyperior and Salamence. So these are the two most offensive Pokemon for Crow on the field already. We saw the Weakness Policy, we saw the Dragon Dance. These are two potent offensive threats, but I think Chemo's equipped to handle them. Suicune does well against both of them. Thunderous can taunt the Salamence if he's really concerned about Dragon Dance, but can also just start Thunder Waving and Swaggering if absolutely necessary. You wouldn't really want to do that against these two physical Pokemon.
And Crow gonna go ahead and just retreat his Salamence. Doesn't want to get hurt in the beginning stages of the match, as Thunderous goes straight for the Thunder Wave, going to target down that Cresselia. I don't mind that move at all. He was definitely trying to
aiming
hit
for
that
the Salamence. He wanted to slow it down. Would have been incredibly useful.
As Suicune doesn't go for the Scald, is he going to be able to pick up a knock on Rhyperior? No, it hangs on. That's going to activate that Weakness Policy that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and if this is a Rock Slide, it's going to do a bunch of damage. It's so useful to get that much put down on Rhyperior, though. Almost anything will knock it out now.
And Rhyperior
but
does
if Thunderous
get off
goes down...
And that does pick up the knockout.
So now that Thunderous is down, Cresselia will be able to safely Trick Room next turn, knowing that Taunt can't come in. Protect plus Trick Room is going to be something for Kimo to have to deal with.
At +2, Rhyperior is definitely a very big threat to the rest of Kimo's team. We see Terrakion come in. Unfortunately, I think what's going to happen here is Rhyperior might just protect, as Cresselia can easily get up a Trick Room if it wants to.
Right, I agree. The thing is, it's paralyzed. A Rock Slide's likely coming in. This could be a big chance for something to go bad for Harrison as he tries to set up Trick Room next to this Protect. If he misses it, this whole game's going to get a lot more difficult for him, and there's a good chance he does because of the Rock Slide.
Dragon does go for the Rock Slide. It does hit that Cresselia. Now it's going to come down to a flinch or paralysis to see if Cresselia can move. Suicune going to go straight for the Scald, and the Rhyperior safe, and Cresselia does get off the Trick Room. So now Kimo is in very, very bad position.
But you know what? Even at +2, well, maybe at +2, that Rhyperior can take down Suicune with Drill Run, but it's going to have to choose between Suicune and Terrakion, and a wrong choice here, as Crow protects, or as Kimo protects, could be bad. But normally Suicune doesn't carry Protect, and so I would guess that Harrison will go after the easy knockout.
Terrakion does protect itself. Cresselia is paralyzed, cannot move, most likely going to target down that Terrakion as Rhyperior goes for the Drill Run onto the Suicune, and that's unfortunate for Kimo as he goes down really fast. He is currently down 4-2. Damaged Rhyperior, paralyzed Cresselia on the side for Crow, and Trick Room's still up. There's still 3 turns of Trick Room left, so Kimo needs to find a way to get around this.
Yeah, I think that was too easy of a read for Harrison to make by protecting with Terrakion and leaving Suicune alone because Suicune almost never carries Protect. Even if Cresselia had been able to get off a Psychic, it wouldn't have won it KO'd the Terrakion. Probably was the chance to knock out the Rhyperior before it does too much.
We do see Mega Venusaur. Mega Venusaur does run a lot of bulk. However, facing off against Cresselia, it's not going to enjoy that. And facing off against a +2 Rhyperior, that's still scary to stare down as Rhyperior goes for the Drill Run. Terrakion dodges it. Venusaur goes straight for the Gig Drain, going to be able to knock out that Rhyperior. That's a big
miss
threat.
There. It would have been down to 4-1. Rhyperior would have gone down later in the turn, but it still would have been huge for Harrison to only have to deal with Venusaur for the rest of the game. Now this Terrakion is going to hang around longer. It's going to be a nuisance for things like Salamence.
And I'm not sure if Kimo really does have anything for that Salamence. Salamence is a pretty speedy Pokemon. He'd probably have to try to reverse Trick Room if he wanted to be able to use Salamence to his greatest effect.
Yeah, here comes Thundurus. Harrison's going to prioritize getting rid of Terrakion now. If it comes down to a 1v1 between Venusaur and Salamence, Salamence will win. And so all Harrison really has to do here with Cresselia and Thundurus is take down Terrakion with his last 2 turns of Trick Room.
It's definitely possible. I mean, Cresselia is a Psychic type. A lot of paralysis could shift the game, in my opinion. But at the same time, Thundurus has to get knocked out.
Right. So Thundurus does Thunder Wave the Venusaur here. Terrakion does not protect this turn. But
there's one paralysis.
Yeah,
there's one paralysis. Venusaur goes for the Sludge Bomb. Where's it going to go? Going to target down that Thundurus. Is it going to be enough to put it in Rock Slide range? It's going to be close. It's going to be really close as Thundurus does get knocked out, and Cresselia takes more chip damage than I think it really enjoy taking. So right now, Salamence is going to come in. I think there's still a turn of Trick Room.
I think this is the last turn, yes. And so Salamence is a pretty speedy Pokemon, but it's still going to be in Trick Room, slotted between Terrakion and Venusaur. So Venusaur will get a chance to attack first, but Terrakion, if it takes a Psychic and a return, won't get a chance to attack. So it might be in Kimo's best interest to protect and look for a Trick Room to end, and then Rock Slide flinches.
Well, after Salamence makes his Mega, it's going to start outspeeding that Terrakion. So I think right now he has to go on the offensive. Cresselia does go for the Helping Hand, going to try to pick up knockouts wherever it can. Venusaur goes straight for the Sludge Bomb onto that Salamence. Poison, a little bit of chip damage here and there, but Salamence goes for the return. Where's it going to go? Into the Terrakion. That should be enough to pick up the knockout. And now it's going to be... That's it. That really should be it.
It's going to have to be a lot of poison damages now. Lots of protects in a row for Kimo.
Right. So I know a lot of players, they do train their Venusaurs to survive returns from Mega Salamence.
Not helping-handed returns.
But not helping-handed, that's right. So Crow showing the Helping Hand, really, that's information that Kimo's going to have to take account for. Venusaur paralyzed, cannot move, cannot protect from this turn, and that should be it for Crow, as he is going to take Game 1 here in the top 16.
So I want to look back at turn 1. I think that was the crucial turn. Kimo got that really important damage on Rhyperior, but in exchange gave it +2 attack, and that +2 attack is what allowed it to KO Thundurus and take away his ability to stop Trick Room.
Right.
And once Trick Room went up next to a +2 attack Rhyperior, Kimo didn't have the defense to stay in the game until Trick Room expired. I think Kimo needs to, now that he knows about that weakness policy, needs to try to avoid triggering it until he knows he can KO the Rhyperior that turn. It's really rough to create that monster in a +2 attack Rhyperior. From Harrison's side, I think he was pretty happy with how that went. He didn't lead his Cresselia. I think he was opening himself up to go with either mode and, lead both of the attackers and switch one for the Cresselia once he decided what he wanted to do with the game.
You're right. I mean, Rhyperior was so problematic, +2, its Drill Run was probably going to KO a lot of things on Kimo's side of the field. And then the icing on the cake for him was definitely getting up the Trick Room. I mean, Kimo has no way to really...
Without that Trick Room, that Rock Slide would have still KO'd Thundurus and KO'd Suicune, but then Rhyperior in the red health would have gone down on the next turn.
Right.
And so it was the Trick Room that allowed it to stay in the game and do a lot of damage. So we've got Game 1 wins for... Obviously, you just saw Harrison win Game 1. For Max Douglas, Mark, Gabby. That's it. That's what we have so far.
Going back into team preview, for those of you guys just tuning in, Kimo's team off-screen, Thunderous, Incarnate, Terrakion, Mawile, Heatran, Suicune, and Venusaur. Crow, the 1 seed, going to be running Thunderous, Incarnate, Sylveon, Cresselia, Heatran, Rhyperior, and Salamence. So Kimo down 1-0. Going to be a tough battle to come back in it. But I think TFC does have the tools.
Yeah, I think he can make the adjustments. He needs to prioritize keeping Thunderous alive. I don't think he can do much once Trick Room goes up without bringing his own Mawile, which also could be an answer.
That's right. If Kimo was really lucky, he would have caught, I mean, that would have been godlike prediction to catch the Cresselia on the switch over the taunt.
Yeah. It was also a possibility just to taunt the Salamence to avoid any possible Dragon Dances, but
right.
It would have been something tough to go for.
And we see Crow going to go ahead and go Heatran and Thunderous, as Kimo going to go ahead and go Thunderous and Terrakion. So I don't mind where Kimo is right now. He definitely has an advantage in the lead.
This is a good spot. Terrakion's in a great spot right here, and Thunderous isn't nearly as threatened. There's no Rhyperior on the field to try to 1-hit KO it. It means it should stick around. If Kimo can force Cresselia out and taunt it, it would be a huge help. We also have a Game 1 win for Wesley.
Yeah, Terrakion can easily go for the Rock Slide, or just try to pick up that knockout in Heatran if it really wanted to, but yeah, Crow's not going to just throw it away like that.
Yeah, I think, again, here, Cresselia is going to come in. Harrison is leading 2 attackers and then making the read on which of his which of them to switch out to bring in that Cresselia.
Right, and we see the Thunder Wave going to go onto the Terrakion, but the Lumberry is going to cure it of his paralysis as Thunderous goes for the taunt. Where's it going to go? Going to target down that Thunderous, so Thunderous now is going to be going offensive as Terrakion goes for the close combat onto the Cresselia slot. Good switch right there from Crow. Good try right there from Kimo.
Yeah, and this is still good. He got past 1 Thunder Wave, taunted the Thunderous, so it can't Thunder Wave the next turn, can still taunt Cresselia. The Rocky Helmet comes in and does a little bit of damage, but I think Kimo's happy with this spot, because now Cresselia, if it decides to Psychic, it will have to make that decision. Instead of trying to go for a Trick Room.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, now we know the Cresselia doesn't have Mental Herb. I think we saw that yesterday. It didn't have Mental Herb. Definitely taunted. I'd say taunted.
I want to point out that we saw 2 Pokemon that did the most last game, were the Rhyperior and the Salamence. We've already seen 3 Pokemon, and neither of those are included. So only one of those Pokemon can be brought to this game. And you know, most players will opt to bring their Mega in every game, and so I would expect that means no Rhyperior this game, despite how much it did last game.
Harrison going to go ahead and withdraw Thunderous once to reset that taunt. Going to send back in Heatran, so Harrison right now in control again, in my opinion. Heatran very much enjoys facing off against Venusaur, and
Kimo
doesn't mind going for the Thunders either.
Instead of taunting, to see if that pays off.
And Cresselia bypasses Swagger, goes straight for the Ice Beam, going to target down that Thunders. Going to do a little bit of damage as the turn ends right there. I mean, positioning right now, Kimo needs to find a way to get the momentum back up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like Kimo is sticking around so far in this game, but isn't really accomplishing much. After that good switch in by Harrison into the close combat, he swaggered and switched, and even this turn, it seems like he'd want to get Venusaur back off the field, as it can't do much right now.
Yeah, Venusaur does switch out, going to go into Suicune. I don't mind that switch at all. Suicune is like the bane of Heatran's existence, really. Suicune does exert pressure. Not sure if that's going to come into play too much, as TFC going to continue on with the Swagger. Going to Swagger that Heatran. I mean, if that's probably his best out right now.
Yeah, I would still like to see Taunt on Cresselia at some point. Letting a Trick Room come up could be problematic.
Yeah, and we do see the Heat Wave come out, doing a lot of damage to that Thunderous. Going to activate that Citrus Berry, though. Going to heal back Thunderous to about 50%, a little less than 50%, as Cresselia now going to have to try to bypass its Confusion check, and Cresselia goes for the Trick Room, so Crow just bypassing all of Kimo's...
Yeah, like 3 Swagger, 3 Confusions so far, but, you know, Kimo opted there to go for the riskier Swagger instead of ever trying to taunt the Cresselia, and now Trick Room's up because of it. It was a risk that didn't pay off.
That is absolutely true.
But if there is no Rhyperior, the Trick Room really may not be as much of a problem. If there is the Rhyperior, as long as he avoids weakness policy, it won't be as much of a problem. So this is still not nearly as bad as the last Trick Room was in Game 1, where he already had a +2 attack Rapier sitting in front of him.
And I believe Max, Douglas, and Riley Factura have advanced to the next round. Cresselia finally gets taunted, and Cresselia cannot use Toxic after the taunt, as Heatran going to go ahead for another Heat Wave. That should be able to pick up the knockout on Thunderous, I believe. No, Thunderous hangs on. Suicune is going to go for the Snarl, going to try to start lowering their special attacks. I don't mind that at all, but I think Suicune really needs to go on the offensive and knock out that Heatran. Picking up that Heat knockout will be so big for Kimo's position, I think.
Right, the putting the Toxic there was really helpful, because otherwise Suicune was on a timer. But now, the Snarl is helpful to slow down how much damage this Heatran and Cresselia can do, but I agree with you. He needs to put damage on this Heatran and start opening up Harrison's team. If all he does is put down Swaggers and Snarls, even if it takes a 4-shot to take down Thunderous, it's more than Kimo's doing.
And Heatran going to protect himself this turn, does not want to take any Scald possibly coming from that Suicune, as Thunderous going to go ahead and Thunder Wave that Cresselia, trying to prevent that Cresselia from moving. Cresselia does snap out of confusion and goes for the Ice Beam. That should be able to pick up the knockout on Thunderous there. So Kimo's just trying to lay down this prevention game, but the prevention game is not working. And that's just the luck of the roll, really, unfortunately, as Suicune does attack into that Protect. So now Kimo again down in the hole. A couple turns of Trick Room left, I believe. As Venusaur is going to come in. Venusaur again does not enjoy facing off against Heatran, but I believe we've seen all of the Cresselia now. We've seen Helping Hand, Ice Beam, Toxic, Trick Room.
Right, so no Psychic.
So
Venusaur is very safe in this position. The
Venusaur
-1 special attack Heatran can't really do that much to Venusaur. And is probably concerned about the Scald anyway. This is a great spot for Venusaur to be in, but he still has to worry about Thunderous and probably the most likely the Salamence in the back.
Cresselia finally cannot move. It's going to be paralyzed this turn, as Heatran is going to go ahead and go for the Earth Power. Going to hit that Suicune for a little bit of damage. Suicune's so bulky, Venusaur is going to start setting up Felices, but Cresselia avoids it.
So yeah, you can see from when that fully paralyzed message came out that was an attempted Helping Hand. It would have boosted that Earth Power damage just a little bit.
Right, but it was taunted. Cresselia was taunted. So
Trick Room allowed it to Ice Beam first. And so now Taunt is gone. It can try to Toxic Suicune again, which will help Heatran a lot in trying to take it down.
If Kimo plays his cards right and tries to get a one-on-one Cresselia versus Venusaur, that'd be a good position for him. But there's still one more Pokemon in back, and Kimo might need to keep that Suicune around just for a Salamence or possibly a Rhyperior, right?
Yeah, we haven't. The Tracheon is still out around for Kimo, which could help with Salamence. As
Cresselia is going to go ahead and finally gets up the Toxic on Suicune, goes for the Earth Power, going to do a little bit of chip damage. Venusaur going to go ahead and go for the Leech Seed, going to try to slowly drain away, and I think now it's trying to set up for the tank, as Suicune is going to be able to pick the knockout. Oh, goes for the Cresselia instead of the Heatran. Interesting move there.
I think he was predicting a Protect. Harrison could have that turn. The Earth Power damage didn't do much to Suicune. But now the Twisted Dimensions return to normal. He can outspeed and Scald this turn also. Or he can try to focus down Cresselia. That Scald may have been enough damage that a Sludge Bomb and a Scald together could take down Cresselia before it can Trick Room again. It would be close.
But now the question is, does Crow want to Trick Room again?
Yeah, it depends on what his fourth Pokemon is, right? We haven't seen it yet. If it's Salamence, he probably doesn't. But if it's Rhyperior, he absolutely does. I think if it was Rhyperior, we probably would have seen it by now, though. So I think it's Salamence being saved to take down Venusaur at the end of the game. Which means that a Trick Room may not happen, but it's still totally possible. The Thunderous is around, Harrison can use the 5 turns just to use Cresselia and Heatran if he wanted.
Suicune does outspeed that Heatran and goes for the Scald knockout. That's going to be the first knockout for Chemo's side, trying to make that comeback right now. Venusaur goes for the Sludge Bomb. If it's a crit, I think it might be able to pick up the knockout. Does not crit. Crit wouldn't even matter, as the Ice Beam is going to go ahead and target down that Venusaur. A little bit of damage thanks to that thick fat. And
so because Harrison's decided not to Trick Room again, Helping Hand wasn't going to matter there. Couldn't Toxic the Venusaur. Ice Beam was the only option left, but it really didn't matter. The Leech Seed heals all of it off, and so allowing Cresselia to attack didn't matter at all.
And Suicune right now getting slowly chipped away, as Salamence does make an appearance. This is, I don't know.
This is a crucial prediction this turn. if Elements allows an Ice Beam to hit it, it's going to make it much easier for Kimo to try to play out of the situation. But at the same time, if Venusaur goes down now, or Venusaur protects while Suicune goes down, it's going to be rough for Kimo. So if he gets the right choice here, could come back into the game. Otherwise, it could all start going downhill very quickly.
Right. Venusaur definitely does not enjoy facing off against Salamence right now. But at the same time, if Salamence doesn't do its job to target down that Suicune, it could also be really problematic for Crow. We're going to see the switch right now. Going to go straight into Thunderous. Maybe a Protect on the Salamence, try to get himself in better position, to knock out that Suicune, knock out that...
Protect is a risky play, though, because if Suicune went for the gutsy Tailwind here, it could put this game...
Salamence goes for the Earthquake. Ooh, forgot it had that. Going to be able to do damage to both sides of the field.
Yeah, so the Earthquake is only different from the return towards Suicune in that it does that small amount of chip to Venusaur. Fundamentally, it's not different.
As Venusaur is going to go for the Sludge Bomb, going to target down that Salamence, and knows where it needs to go. Guts Poison. It's still pretty close. Salamence is going to go down to about 50% of its health. What does Kimo have left in the back?
Terrakion that we saw him lead.
Oh, Terrakion, right. That might be
Its
crucial.
One Berry is now used up now, so Thundurus can Thunder Wave it.
Right.
It may also... I'm not sure if it's in return KO range or not. We saw return KO from that much health last game, but that was with a Helping Hand. Probably not in return KO range this turn. So if it allows if Venusaur protects a return and the Rock Slide comes out and picks up huge damage on Thundurus and gets the KO on Salamence, would be great for Kimo.
I think a Rock Slide and a Sludge Bomb in that Salamence slot, fairly safe.
Yeah. I wouldn't be that surprised to see Salamence protect despite being poisoned, just to try to burn the Venusaur protect. If Salamence can take down Venusaur before going down, it doesn't matter that Terrakion's still alive, probably.
Right, right now, Crow really has to choose what Pokemon he wants to knock out. I think Venusaur might be the bigger threat right now.
Yeah, the spread damage, if you're going to go down up 3-1, you'd rather do it against Pokemon without a spread attack.
Harrison going to go ahead and withdraw. This is also problematic if no Protect from Chemo's side. There is no Protect from Chemo's side. Going to go for the Thunder Wave on Terrakion. I don't mind that play either. That's a good move. Terrakion goes for the Rock Slide. Going to do damage to Thundurus and Cresselia. If this knocks out Cresselia, Thundurus is in trouble of taking a Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, and if Thundurus takes a Sludge Bomb and gets KO'd, which is like we were talking about, if you go down multiple Pokemon to one and you don't have a spread move, it's really hard to play out of that. And that could be the position Harrison's just put himself in. We'll see if this Sludge Bomb KOs or not.
I don't think it will. Thundurus, critical hit, picks up the knockout.
Yeah, and so that's probably all Kimo needs. Earthquake is Salamance's spread move, and it could, with a crit or something, get the KO on Terrakion, but there's no way it does on Venusaur. Probably means he's going to have to target down Venusaur and hopefully paralyzes.
Or Rock Slide miss.
Or Rock Slide miss.
That's what's going to have to happen. Kimo kind of dragging his way back into this game in a scrappy manner.
Yeah, I don't know about that switch for Harrison. He gave up the opportunity to have two potent Pokemon in on the same turn.
Salamence, let's go for the return on the Venusaur. Picks up a knockout. Can Terrakion move this turn? Terrakion is going for the Rock Slide, and it hits. That should be the knockout on Salamence. If not, Poison will definitely take it out. Salamence does get knocked out, and Kimo takes game 2 in exciting fashion.
So I think it's interesting. That crit was probably very important for Kimo to win the game, but if you look back at all those turns with Swagger and Thunder Wave up that amounted to nothing for Kimo, you could look at this next game and say, if I just get better rolls on all those things, I can play the exact same strategy and come out with a win.
That's true. Unfortunately, that was Kimo's best option at the time. What is Thunder's going to do? I could go for a little bit of chip damage here and there, but Swagger, Thunder Wave, taunting, that's probably the best bet for Kimo in that situation. So, what are the adjustments you could possibly see happening between the two players?
I think trying to prevent, maybe it's tough to say because any adjustment Kimo makes can be countered by one from Harrison. But if you look at these games, Trick Room's gone up pretty easily, but in Game 1 it was crucial because Rhyperior was there, and in Game 2 it didn't matter as much because Rhyperior wasn't. I would look to see Harrison try to bring Rhyperior knowing that Kimo seems content to, not necessarily content, but willing to let Harrison set up a Trick Room. And Heatran just can't do enough damage as Harrison's only Trick Room attacker if that's what he opts for, whereas Rhyperior definitely can.
Right. In other news, guys, JTK, Gabby has advanced, and so has Mark Hansen and Nikolai Zelinsky. So former seniors world champion has advanced, and Crawdon has advanced, and JTK has advanced. So we got some exciting matchups coming up for you guys. Back to team preview again for those of you guys just joining in. Chemo off screen going to be running Thunderous, Incarnate, Terrakion, Mawile, Heatran, Suicune, and Venusaur. Crow going to be going with that Heatran, Thunderous, Salamence, Rhyperior, Sylveon, and Thunderous Incarnate as well. Let's see if these players made any of those adjustments that you said were necessary for them to try to edge the other one out in this game 3. Crow going to go ahead and go.
We have seen the Heatran, which is what we didn't see in
Game 1.
And saw the Rhyperior did. So I don't know if that indicates that Rhyperior is not coming, or if it's Thunderous or Cresselia he decided to opt out of. Cresselia has been so useful setting up Trick Room, but at the same time, it did slow down Harrison's momentum in the middle of that last game. When once Kimo recognized it didn't have Psychic and his Terrakion and Venusaur weren't very threatened by it, he was more content to leave it on the field, and that definitely slowed down what Harrison could do. Maybe Harrison decided now that that cat's out of the bag, he doesn't feel he can bring Cresselia anymore when having to take down this Venusaur.
That's right. One thing we do know is that Terrakion is not sashed, so Crow knows that as well. As we see the switch from Terrakion into Suicune, I don't mind that. Unless he's just sacrificing his Venusaur right away, that'd be unfortunate.
Yeah, that would not be good, but I don't think Kimo would do that. That's he knows Venusaur is the kind of the core to his team.
Venusaur going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. Ooh, I need to protect. Definitely needs to protect here, but that might open up Crow to set up some Dragon Dances. Venusaur going to go ahead and protect itself this turn. Salamence goes for their turn into the Terrakion slot, going to hit that Suicune for a lot of damage as Heatran's going to go ahead and go for the Flash Cannon, so double targeting that slot.
Yeah, I was trying to take down Terrakion. It was so useful for Kimo towards the end of that last game. But prevents the Terrakion KO, but takes a massive amount of damage to his Suicune instead, and the bulk of that Suicune is what allowed him to sit through all those turns of Trick Room last game.
Right.
Similar to how in the game of Swiss we watched him play, Suicune allowed him to sit through turns of Trick Room. Having a bulky Pokemon like that, even on an offensive team, can really help with Trick Room. Now, Suicune really is on a timer. If it takes a return, it's knocked out. Same thing for Venusaur.
I think if it takes an Earthquake, it might be knocked out too.
It would be close. So this is a tough position where Kimo doesn't know which is going to be targeted for the return, and if he guesses wrong, he probably switches Thunderous into one of the slots.
Ooh, Salamence goes for the Protect. Interesting play right there from Crow. Let's see if it pays off. Suicune goes for the Ice Beam, going to hit that Salamence Protect. Venusaur goes for the Swim, hits that Salamence Protect, so good call right there from Harrison. As Heatran going to go ahead and go for the Flash Cannon. That should be able to pick the knockout on Suicune after that special defense drop last turn.
Yeah, so Kimo thought Harrison was going to take one knockout with return, wanted to punish whatever knockout he took with a damp attack back on Salamence. Instead, he hits into Protect twice, and Heatran takes one knockout. It is interesting if Salamence had just gone after Venusaur and then Flash Cannon had gone after Suicune.
That would have been knockout. Yeah, that would have been a double knockout.
Double knockout, but
Salamence
would have taken a nice. Salamence would have been knocked out along the way too. We would have almost cleared the field.
Right.
So I do think this is a better play for Harrison, keeping his Salamence alive to continue to threaten other things. But now Thunderous is on the field, and
Thunderous goes for the Swagger, going to target down that Heatran. Weird to see that he didn't go for the Salamence to Thunder Wave it.
Yeah, so I was about to talk about him needing to go for that Thunder Wave on Salamence. Surprised he didn't.
And that is going to be 2 quick knockouts for Crow, and Crow is in killer position right now.
Yeah, 2 knockouts, and all Kimo's accomplished is a Swagger.
Heatran's going to go ahead and go for the Heat Wave through the Swagger. Maybe Kimo needs to get rid of that Swagger strategy because it has definitely not paid off.
Yeah, this game's gone terribly for him so far. He's got 2 knockouts, Thunderous, Citrus burnt, down to his Terrakion and his Thunderous trying to win the whole game. When things like the Rhyperior or the Cresselia come into play, I just don't know how he's going to be able to take them down with just these 2 Pokemon.
Terrakion comes in. I don't know what Kimo really can do, as Harrison's going to go ahead and protect his Salamence. Terrakion's going to go for the Rock Slide. Salamence protects itself. Maybe some flinches here would be nice for Kimo and confusion, so Heatran might not be able to move. Thunderous goes for a Thunderbolt into the Salamence Protect. So Heatran's confused, hits himself in confusion.
That's step 1 for Kimo. He's going to probably need to do exactly the same thing next turn. He needs to get rid of the Salamence. With 3 attacks, it could probably end this game with 3 or 4. And so one. He can't stop one, but shouldn't allow any more than that. He can try to do something like Thunder Wave or Swagger to prevent any, but I do think the safer just Rock Slide Thunderbolt, as long as his Heat Train doesn't attack, keeps him in a good position.
Heat Ran going to go ahead and retreat right now. Going to go out into Cresselia. Kimo is going to go ahead and continue with Rock Slide. Interesting to note, Salamence does not outspeed Terrakion. Salamence flinches, cannot move. Thundurus goes for the Thunderbolt. Where's it going to go? Cresselia. Okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Maybe Crow was trying to predict a Thunder Wave into that Salamence slot, and then Cresselia could come in and easily Trick Room. Let's see what kind of antics Kimo is up to right now. That is key information though. That Salamence outsped. That Salamence outsped the.
Yeah, it's great information for Kimo to get pretty late in the match to get it. But
Thundurus goes for the Swagger on his own Terrakion. Going to activate that Lumberry +2 attack. I don't mind that. I don't mind that play at all.
He needed to get Terrakion hitting hard now that he knows it's fast enough to stay around for a while. If Trick Room comes up though, this could be a problem.
But of course, Rock Slide flinches. That could be a key player here. Cresselia goes for the Trick Room, and that should be. Oh, I mean now.
Now Thundurus should be the. So Cresselia should be the fastest thing on the field.
Right.
Thundurus should be the next fastest. Cresselia can't knock out Thundurus with an Ice Beam. I don't know if Thundurus can knock out Salamence with a Thunderbolt. Either way, Heat Train's going to come back on the field the fastest thing at some point and threaten a Flash Cannon to Terrakion. Kimo needs to start counting those turns because...
Thundurus going to go ahead and go for the Swagger. Salamence avoids it. Cresselia goes for the Ice Beam, and that might do it? Depending on where this Salamence Earthquake is going to go, is it going to be enough to knock out this Terrakion?
I think it most likely will be.
Adamant Terrakion. Or Adamant Salamence. Does not pick up the knockout. As Terrakion goes for the Rock Slide, that's going to be able to pick up the double knockout, so it's going to be Crow's 2 Pokemon versus... so we know there's Heatran. We don't know what else he's hiding.
No, it could be Rhyperior, it could be Thundurus.
Most likely Rhyperior if he set up that Trick Room this late in the game.
And Rhyperior would be really helpful right now. The Rock Slide would be a huge amount of damage. Wouldn't get the knockout on Terrakion most likely, but would get the knockout on Thundurus.
And it is Thundurus, so...
Thundurus, that's got to be good news for Kimo. He's still, a Flash Cannon and a Thunderbolt, still 2 knockouts, but if you the right Swaggers in the right places, then this game isn't over yet.
Thundurus goes for the Swagger, going to target down that Heatran, but unfortunately I feel like Kimo had to protect that turn.
Yeah, I think he needed to get 2 Swaggers up before allowing anything to touch.
Heatran is confused. Is it going to be able to move? Kimo now hits. Oh, Heatran hits himself in confusion, but I think Thundurus is going to go for the Thunderbolt instead. It does go for the Thunderbolt, so if Kimo just protected there...
Yeah, I think Kimo needed to protect there. I think Kimo was expecting maybe a Flash Cannon plus Thunderbolt to get 2 knockouts, but Crow, knowing that he didn't need to take that risk and he could play more safely and just target both at Terrakion, knowing that it was the only one putting out enough damage to win this game. Now it will take an incredible number of Swaggers for this Thundurus to do enough to get enough damage on the field to KO both of these Pokemon.
Right, and Thundurus cannot be paralyzed. That's an unfortunate thought for Kimo. Thundurus now confused. Heatran cannot move. That should be it for Kimo. No, Heatran hits himself in confusion, and now Thundurus going to try to bypass confusion and goes for the Thunderbolt, and that might be it. It's going to be close. Thundurus does get knocked out. So I think the key turn right there for Kimo, definitely need to protect Terrakion on that one turn to try to get those 2 Swaggers up. You're right.
Right, but that was all late game heroics.